JFKsWorld.com. Hello, everybody. Welcome back inside JFK's World, the podcast where I talk to cool people doing cool things. Traditionally, it's been entrepreneur friends that I know. The gentleman on your screen in front of you is no stranger to the podcast. You may recognize him from episode 8. He is one half of the Humble and Hungry crew, but more importantly, he is my day one, grade one OG best friend. Ladies and gentlemen, reintroduction to Mr. Dante. Dante, how are you?
Awesome, man. Wow, that was a really warm reception there. I love that. Very nice. I can see that you're very well practiced in welcoming guests to your platforms, but it's awesome. We're trying out new technologies today, so well, a little trial and error, but it's fun.
Right? So first of all, if this goes well, shout out to Riverside. We're trying the Riverside podcast software platform, giving it a whirl. So fingers crossed for us, fingers crossed Riverside. So in addition, yes, Dante, so thank you for bringing that up, because as I look to evolve the podcast, how we interact together, how, what it means, what JFK's World is all about, I really wanted to, we've done some things together where we talk Raptors, we talk basketball, we talk anything, we talk shit, right? So we talk with our friends, and I just wanted to make sure that we have a platform that we can discuss current events, pop culture, stuff that's going on that's important to us, or maybe not as important to us, just something that we have opinions on, because I know that I get a kick out of listening to what you have to say about things, and I think that we can bring some value and some entertainment to the masses. So although we're not talking about your entrepreneurial endeavors today, I'm happy that we're making the time to discuss the agenda that you've built for us. So I don't know. Before we jump into that, anything else you want to say, or do you want to dive right in?
No, we could dive. Okay, well, I'll just say this: that it is important to have balance in life, right? And even like just a random conversation like this, it could be super entertaining, it could be dull as hell, but like at the same time, I think it's important just to talk and have that communication. And sometimes living in our worlds right now, we're in silos and got our heads on the hamster wheel. And sometimes we got to carve out this time just to have a conversation, man, and check in and see what's up. So with that, I'm ready to talk.
All right, let's do it.
Okay.
So the agenda. So do you want to kick us off with kind of the 3 or 4, I think, main topics we're going to discuss today in this podcast?
Yeah, sure. Okay, of course we're going to make some time for basketball, because we haven't had an opportunity to talk about ball since the season started. So this will be like an early season check-in on what's going on this season. A couple of topics to talk about there, but there's some bigger takes that's affected culture en masse that I think that we should just touch base about. And first and foremost, I want to talk about Taylor Swift. Let's just get it out there. It's close to home. Taylor Swift is on her Eras tour, and she's, I think this is like the end of the tour, right? Like she's ending in Toronto, or Toronto, as she's calling it.
Yes.
Yeah. And a couple of our people that I know, I think have gone and enjoyed it. So let's just start off. My questions to you, man. I had a couple questions off the top of my head. Seeing her coming down the Gardner and having a motorcade and having that much space just to travel unimpeded in traffic, it made me think about her star power, and if she is at the pinnacle of pop culture height, is she the top here? And I think she's got a pretty strong argument to make there. And one thing to point me in that direction is, what other artists would the city do that for? Or what other people, like the Pope? Maybe the Pope, right? Yeah, but like, would they do that for a Beyonce? Would they do that for Lady Gaga or Harry Styles? I don't know who the male top artist would be.
Right,
what do you think?
Comparable to Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
So, politicians and stuff aside, correct me if I'm wrong, but did they do something for Kawhi? Or was that just like choppers following him around back when there was like that hope of him re-signing? Was it just choppers following, or was there some sort of like, do you remember? I know now it was 4 years ago now, but I remember cameras following his car. But no, I think outside of politicians, I mean, I haven't heard of anything, and there's concerts in Toronto all the time. I mean, it's a major North American market, and she's not the first.
Well, did you see the images? Like, did you see the video? Like, it's not like an escort. Like, they had the whole garden
Right.
blocked
It's
off. You know
not
what I
just
mean?
it's
Like,
not just like, yeah. But I mean, it speaks to what she represents to a generation of people, and now I guess multiple generations, is adults and daughters, adults and sons are going to see her shows. And so, no, I mean, if I was inconvenienced by it, if I had to get somewhere and the gardener was like rolling shut down for her, I'd probably be upset. But I mean, that doesn't really surprise me. That I think, there was such an uproar for her to, first of all, come to Canada, come to, I guess it wasn't included as part of her original, tour package. And then the fact that Toronto got 6 shows in the span of 2 weeks,
yeah.
and I guess, the amount of money it's brought into the city, and the amount of, just all of the positive things. I mean, but to think about, your question of who else would this be done for, I guess the short answer is no one, because it's the first that I've heard of it to be, yeah, like you said, it's not just cars around her and like a police escort, it's shut down. So that's just next
Yeah.
level Toronto.
That is next level, and some interesting points. She should just take a helicopter, right? Just from Pearson straight to Rogers. Just take a helicopter. Why is that not a
Yeah,
thing?
or like the Up Express, like just shut that down. Shout out Up
Mm,
Express, 20 minutes from Pearson to Union. But anyway, like, yeah, take a
there you go.
helicopter. Um, there's plenty of ways to get around that don't involve the gardener. But yeah, hey,
I,
she's not in charge of how she gets from A to B. But whoever strongly suggested, or demanded that she had uninterrupted access from A to B got their wish, I guess.
yeah, no, but like we are a major city, or Toronto, right? Major city, so this should be expected that we would do something like this for a superstar of that magnitude. And if that's like one afternoon of shitty traffic, which we seem to always have now, if that's the
Yep.
penalty for this, that's whatever, it's worth it. Because I did see something about like $220 million of economic like influx because of this concerts, something like that into the city,
Yeah.
which I'm sure will go a long way. But interesting.
And
Do
like
you know anyone?
yeah, I do know a few people that went, but I also know people that are just going because even on non. So for those that don't know, she was here Thursday, Friday, and today Saturday. So 3 shows in a row, and then next week same thing, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. My understanding is that they have merchandise sales at Rogers Center, like all it started beginning of this week and it's continuing. So I know people that are just going to get Eras Tour merchandise that aren't going to the actual show because they couldn't get
Oh.
tickets. Yeah,
Yeah, and I guess you can flip that on eBay or something like that too after the fact.
yeah,
Um, yeah, it's crazy, and it's crazy the amount of money those resale ticket prices. Insane. But I guess she's a mega superstar. Like if she is the pinnacle, like if she's a top, then whatever, man. You pay the price, right? Like, and people
yeah.
are so.
People are. It's like I said, she's been around for long enough that she has. I would say at this point, like 2 generations of fans, if not 3, I
Yeah,
guess. But yeah, I
yeah.
mean, good on her. She's been doing this tour for like what, a year and a bit, almost 2 years now, and she like I saw it at the movie theater. I took my daughter, who
Oh, okay.
didn't really know who Taylor Swift was, but knew that there was this concert. And this was a year ago. It was last November. I took her to see this concert in the theater, and she became a Swiftie like that day, and then has loved her ever since. And my daughter just turned 9. So like, yeah,
Uh huh.
like head over heels.
Yeah.
And bad dad, now she's disappointed that she couldn't go see the real thing. And I was like, we saw it in the theater. It's the exact same show. You can watch it on Disney. But
Man, yeah, wow. But you're right. I guess it would have been like the NSYNC phenomenon in our
ooh,
day,
like
right?
a comparable. Yeah,
Yeah,
in
like
our right, because we were, I guess, a little young for the whole like pinnacle Madonna, pinnacle
mm,
Michael Jackson. Like we were
mhm, mhm.
right, like we were a little young, I would say, to be as aware. But yeah, I would agree. Yeah, that like NSYNC, Spice Girls, like those
Hmm.
groups. I think that for our generation in that later '90s, early 2000s, it was more group heavy when it came to like
I guess Spice
pop.
Girls. That's Spice Girls is a great comparable. Like people went crazy for the Spice Girls, man. They were on
Oh yeah.
top. So
Oh yeah,
yeah,
remember there was like the the authorized like movies, the unauthorized like documentaries being made about them, like just like all kinds of
yeah.
crazy stuff before social media for people to like be attached or have like a piece of, the Spice Girls
Hmm.
star.
Interesting that you mentioned social media. Yeah, like social media as like an accelerator for someone's fame. You know, like how much fame grew for Taylor Swift because of that. How much bigger would the Spice Girls have been if social media existed in the same way back then,
Right?
right?
And it's one of those things that I think, especially in like pop culture has just adapted and been forced to adapt so much to the growth of social media. And it's not
Hmm.
just enough to, that like people run all of these people's social media accounts, whereas before you just had like a PR rep or a group of PR people, and
Yeah.
it was very, I guess, easier to control the message or how someone was perceived. But
Hmm.
it also like just more eyeballs are exposed, and I think a lot of artists now get their start on social media, whereas before you had to break in through being on a record label, whereas now
Yeah.
record labels are finding people that way, right? So
For sure. You can be a superstar just off of a TikTok or something, right?
yeah, yeah,
Huh. Well, I certainly am not going to pay those prices to see her. I'd rather see it on the movie theater, maybe get a better angle too. But what a crazy, crazy thing for the city. So that's really cool, and I hope that we see more of this with more stars coming through. Anything
yeah.
to
And
like,
then, like anything that boosts the economy, right? Like even if it's
yeah,
temporary,
yeah,
anything that supports those workers, and you think about all the people, yeah, like hotels, restaurants, people making tips
yeah.
and stuff that are going to see an increase from these 2 weeks. I think that part of it's great. So, and plus, for anyone that's a Swiftie that gets to see her live, I know it's like a once in a lifetime thing. So kudos to them. Shout outs to them.
Shout outs to Swifty. Shout outs to Swifty.
Yeah.
All right, let's table that. Let's table that. Let's move on. So, another piece of massive pop culture events happened last night as well, when Jake Paul fought Mike Tyson in one of the most ridiculous spectacles of the year.
Yeah.
Did you stay up all night to watch that?
Yes. So I think it's important that you and I preface this by saying that I don't think either of us are the biggest boxing or mixed martial arts or that realm. I don't think we're the biggest fans, but we're both around sports, sporty enough, knowledgeable of
Yeah.
historic figures like a Mike Tyson that
Yeah.
I think when we were talking, in our friends group, although we all wanted to kind of watch it for different reasons, I think the fact that we all tuned in says something about it. But yeah, I did. So yeah, I did. I mean, had I
But
had other plans, I probably wouldn't have. But it just so happened that I didn't have any plans on a Friday night, and that became my plans.
yeah, I do think that Mike though is bigger than the sport at this point. Like he's in movies. He's kind of like a, you know, like Snoop Dogg is bigger than a rapper. He's more of an icon. I think Mike is definitely of that status. And
Yeah.
like talking about, we were talking about NSYNC a second ago being like massive when we were kids. Mike Tyson was a monster when we were kids. Like
Yes.
he was a beast, and I remember us, or like you know, we've followed him throughout his entire career basically because
Yeah.
we've been alive to see the rise and fall and all the tribulations and everything like that. So I think there's more to the sports appreciation aspect of it. It's more of like, hey, this is some dude that we've been watching our
Yeah.
whole lives basically. Like he was the boxer that got me into boxing. It's not like I was a Holyfield guy or Sugar Ray Leonard guy or George Foreman guy or anything like that. Like I was a
Right.
Tyson guy when I was introduced to the sport. So, but yeah. Anyways, what were your thoughts on the fight itself? Like, give me
So
a word or two. You know, an adjective. How would you describe this?
yeah. So the fight itself, I think, obviously it didn't live up to any of the hype that was centered around it. And I'll let you know, excuse me, that I did watch. the Netflix, like the episodes leading up to the fight. So they did
Oh,
like a
interesting. Okay.
3 episode thing leading up to it to kind of
Yeah.
go over like the countdown to it. But so yeah, there's no way that anyone can convince, I think, me otherwise. And I'd be interested to hear your take, but there's no way it came even close to living up to any of the
No.
hype that people were hoping for at all.
Yeah, no, I think we are all fools. I mentioned that in our chat group yesterday. We are
Yeah,
all fools for staying up watching this. Like, what were we thinking? Why would we think that Father Time would lose this match? You know what I mean? Like, Father Time is undefeated and Mike Tyson's almost 60 years old. Like, why would we think he could hang? Like, we're so stupid. Well, like, why I guess Mike is like an enigma. He's a one of a kind talent. He's a monster in the ring. We've all seen that explosive punching power, but he's
yeah,
also human and he's 60 years old and he's done a ton of drugs and he's just like, what has he done to his body over these last few decades? So I went into the fight really thinking that Tyson had a chance, but then within like 30 seconds of the fight starting, I'm like, what like we're so silly. We're so silly. And then as it went on, I realized like there's no way that they're going to put Tyson in a position where he could really be hurt. Like I never thought that, so I didn't think that Jake Paul was going to kill him, was trying to kill him. And like
right.
Jake Paul was boxing, but like like he wasn't like going at him like he could have been.
Yeah,
Uh,
and there's all the
and
special, like the different rules that they had for it. So even though it's an official sanctioned fight, I think the two for me that go to show that it was more about the show than someone actually winning by knockout. So the first one, obviously, the gloves. They used the 14-ounce gloves rather than
okay,
the
yeah,
10-ounce gloves. And in my, again, limited research, the 14-ounce gloves are usually what they would use for sparring, so for practice. So it's like
oh,
they
interesting. Okay,
absorb more of the gloves absorb more of the contact or the blow. So it would be that much harder to actually knock someone out in these gloves than using
right,
the. And then the second, major one to the non-professional boxing person that I am was the fact that they only had a 2-minute round for each round. So it's not like, to your point, Tyson's 58. They limited him being tired by having to go a full boxing round. And then to shrink it down, they said that was a way to help preserve both of their power, but I think also for them, you brought it up, and I don't know you'll talk about it, but for both of them to make it the full 8 rounds, which in itself is less than an actual full-length boxing one too.
that's true, absolutely. So yeah, you're right. Good points, great points. All these things, but yeah, I did send another message in our chat group speaking about how there was more monetary incentive if they were to last the entire match, 8 rounds without going down. So, yeah, I don't know if the intent was there as we would have expected. And then it just sort of like made me think about us as consumers at large and how easily we are into being manipulated into
Sure.
doing this. Like as you mentioned, none of us are boxing fans, but all of us tuned in for this, and um, we paid right for this as well.
Yeah,
So.
yeah, like
Uh,
Netflix. It's I think it's there's an arms race going on when it comes to non-traditional broadcasters to have these traditional events, and sports is a huge one. Entertainment's not like talking about
yeah.
Taylor and Beyonce both have now had like motion pictures of their concerts, right? But like circling back to so Netflix sees, the Amazons of the world, the Amazons, Apple having Major League Baseball. Um, Netflix is like, you
Yep.
know what, we're going to do something, and then during the event, they announced that they're going to create a new tradition with the NFL, and there's going to be at least two NFL games on Christmas Day on Netflix, only on Netflix. And so right there, it's like, hey, NBA, who owns Christmas Day on traditional media, now Netflix is like, you know what, we're going to partner with, at least in North America or America, the biggest
Hmm.
sporting brand that is the NFL, and they said it themselves, a new tradition. So it's Netflix
Yeah.
trying to entering this next echelon of live events through a streaming service, and it's just
Yeah.
it's an arms race that continues. and how are they going to outdo each other? And you better believe that, yeah, okay, well, if we can keep the eyeballs on it for the full 8 rounds, have these great undercards before it, win-win for Netflix, right?
Yeah, which was a great undercard. Netflix had terrible streaming and audio problems. Like
Yeah.
the internet was ablaze about it. Did you know that WWE Raw is moving to Netflix?
Well, I saw that too. Like, I
Yeah.
didn't know it said coming like January 6th or early
Yeah, yeah,
January.
yeah,
I
yeah.
didn't know if it was a one-time event or if it's going to
Nah,
be.
permanent. Yeah.
How do you feel about
So
that,
like
being the big wrestling fan that you are? Speak on that
Uh,
for a minute.
well, I mean, with respect to like any sporting event or any live production, as it was last night, if they have these audio video quality issues, and there's no way that that's sustainable. Like, and I think that this was a good test run for Netflix to see, like, okay, what would it be like if everyone in the world tuned into an event? Like, is our systems going to crash? But they had months to prepare for this, so they really should have had the servers and everything in place. So it was a little disappointing when it was so choppy, you know. And,
Yeah, and I want to speak on. It's funny. Did you stick around for them like being interviewed in the ring afterwards, or
no,
did
no,
you?
no, no. I was
No.
out.
Okay, so
Yeah.
I did, um, and Jake Paul made the comment like we broke the site. Like,
Oh,
so
okay.
I'm sure Mike Tyson was not in on what was going on pre-fight. Like, I would assume that as the professional boxer that he is, he would have stuck to whatever routine he has. Jake Paul
Mm.
has made his fortune by through social media and coming up. And again, so for him to be well aware that Netflix had major issues throughout the event just goes to show the spectacle aspect that it was. Not taking away
Sure,
anything from
sure.
him, right? I guess we could transition if we want to into like our thoughts on him, again, our limited knowledge on being a boxer. But just for him to say that he had like someone didn't whisper it in his ear post fight, like, hey, just so you know, like Netflix has been having
Right.
issues. Like, he would have
Yes.
known during, the whole process of him actually going out to the ring
Hmm.
that Netflix was having issues. Someone would have been telling him that
Yeah.
it was happening. And so for him to speak on it, it's almost like a badge of honor. Like,
Fair enough.
we
And
know
it
that
also
people
speaks
understand that
to
we broke.
his. I was gonna say it also speaks to his like business mind. You know that like boxing isn't the only thing he's locked in on. Whereas like Tyson's probably focusing on the fight and just the fight. Like this guy, to your point, is building a brand, so he's got to be savvy to these other things that are going on. So yeah, I mean, it is like a money spectacle thing. I don't know, man. We might fall for it again the next time, maybe. It seems to be like one of the only things that is bringing the world together, like the United States together. It's so divided right now, but at least we'll all
Yeah.
tune in for a Tyson fight. But
Yeah. And I
I don't
mean,
know, man.
so credit to Paul. He did make some comments again in that in ring post fight interview where he did mention, he hopes that this could bring people together. His country, America's divided, and he hopes that there's a path towards like goodness in the world. And so he did make some of those comments. Um, I'm just curious again because I know you didn't watch the pre Netflix shows, but there was a lot of talk around his career now as a boxer and him looking to kind of go into being considered a legitimate contender in the boxing world. So I was just wondering, like, your take on that. And then, I mean, I don't have any other insights other than what I learned in the Netflix documentary, so to speak. But kind of like, what are your thoughts on social media titan now focusing in on a boxing career?
You know, at this point with Jake Paul, like, give him a title shot. Let's see what happens. Let's see what happens if you're in the ring with like a legitimate, active, killer champion. I mean, at this point, if we want to consider those matches legit, I know they're not always, but he's got a winning record, right? Like he's
Yeah.
done enough to earn a look, and I think that this would be sort of like a make or break thing, and to validate if it's legit or not. I don't know. Like, would you want to see that?
Yeah, I mean his stance is, um, he's where the money is. He's bringing boxing to a new generation, which, as we all know, with the rise of MMA, the like the sweet science of boxing really fell off when it came to like popular culture, even like,
Yeah.
The casual sports fan wasn't as interested in two heavyweights going at it because there wasn't those big name stars. But so I think having someone like him being able to at least do what he's done with the people that have been put in front of him, he's been able to elevate himself to, like, I agree with you, like, give the guy a shot against these top boxers. They are going to get paid on their end, and it'll help them financially if that's what they're looking for. I think in boxing, you can't be scared to face someone like him, because one of the things that it did take, and it clearly showed, was the training element involved. And he's committed. He actually went up a number of weight classes to become heavyweight,
Yeah.
so that he can compete against Tyson. But I guess it's the heaviest that he's ever been. He's fought people in lower weight classes. And so he was able to do all of that work behind it. And so, yeah, give him a shot. Why not? Like, casual
Well, I
fan.
mean, okay.
So,
Well, to play devil's advocate, why not? Like, well, could it be that if he was to lose, all this is over? He loses so much credibility in that sense. If he was to lose against someone legit, like, is it only interesting to us because we know he's got a potential chance? Like, I don't know. If he was to go into a ring and get doused or lose, then I don't know how excited I would be to see the next one of him. Like, he's now the shine is off, I guess, if that's the
yeah.
case. So maybe for him there isn't that incentive to risk it. Almost like a Mayweather right now. Like, he's got that perfect record. He's gonna handpick his opponents to keep that because the record is more important, right?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. But I think it's an interesting study for us to see kind of what happens. We all tuned in. And I think now we all know a little bit more about, his story.
Shame on us. Shame on us.
Mike Tyson as well. Like, I, it's funny watching all of the people our age or older, even the celebrities. No one was going to say anything to that. But I don't think any older people picked Mike Tyson to lose. But I think as soon as you saw him kind of move around in the ring, you were like, I hope, like, this could be real bad. But then again, to the point that you brought up earlier, it wasn't to Jake Paul's best interest to try to knock him out either. So, yeah.
Yeah. But it could have been disastrous. Like, the man could have died, right? Or who knows?
Yeah. Yeah. But, okay, yeah. So, hey, we'll tune in next time, too. We'll see what happens, and we'll speak on it then. Hey, everyone. This concludes part A of the episode. We are about to transition into some Toronto Raptors and NBA talk. So if you have somewhere to be, this is a good pausing point. Otherwise, let's jump back in with part 2 of the podcast, in case I don't say it enough. Thanks for listening. Welcome back inside JFK's World. This is part 2 of mine and Dante's initial full-length podcast conversation. As we were talking about our initial topics, we thought, you know what, let's make it a 2-part mini-series. So if you missed the first part where we talk about we talk all things Taylor Swift in Toronto, and we talk the Jake Paul Mike Tyson fight, and as well as a little bit of intro to what's been going on in JFK's World podcast land. But part B, we're going to dive into our passion, that is all things Raptors and NBA. So Dante, I will turn it over to you to kick us off.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah. Interesting conversation that we just had about those subjects, by the way. So if you haven't check out part one. Just kind of curious about how the future is going to go with future events. So I'd love to touch base with you about that going forward. But let's talk a little bit about basketball. So as mentioned, we haven't had a chance to speak about ball yet since the season started. I know we were both, semi-excited to head into the season this year. And it's now our opportunity to check in. I know, James, you got your family, you got work, you got other stuff going on, so I know you're busier. I have a little bit more flexibility where I can tune in a little bit more often. Have you had a chance to keep up? Like, are you happy with your NBA intake right now, or do you wish you had a little bit more, or what do you think?
I'll always wish I could get more, that's for sure. But I am happy with the amount that I've been able to squeeze in. It's definitely more than I was able to like start off with last year, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So I like to think that I've observed a lot of Raptors coverage, and then obviously some other teams as well. And so,
So
yeah,
me too. And
happy
it's
with
been an
where I'm at.
interesting season so far.
Yeah, interesting season
Yeah,
so
sorry.
far.
It has been an interesting season so far. I do feel as if there's like I feel the next generation more than before. I don't know if it's because I'm getting older, but it does feel like there's a lot more young talent. Maybe it's a proxy of the CBA and how they don't have as many old vets on the team because they demand a higher contract. So maybe there's just more younger players there. So it does definitely feel like there's a new generation and the old generation sort of transitioning out. And with that, I've seen like an increase in the 3-pointer. And I'm very curious. I don't know if you've noticed it on your end. 3-pointers are kind of ruining the game for me a little bit. Like, I love them, whatever, accuracy shooting is fun, everyone can shoot, like, that's cool. But I miss the post game. I miss like people learning moves in the post or the mid-range specialists. So I don't know. Do you have any thoughts? Have you noticed that trend on your end?
Yeah, well, the Steph Curry effect, right? So
Yeah.
it's alive and well, and I think his performance in that gold medal game in the Olympics, even just he doesn't want to give up his throne, but there's a lot of you know people that have made it to the NBA because they are able to shoot a high percentage 3-point shot. And I think a lot of extended work, probably too much, probably at the expense of other fundamentals like a post game for taller players, has led to that increase. And I agree, and I think it's also because, and I don't have the stats on kind of year over year 3-point percentage on how it goes, but yeah, I do find that there's a lot of times where you're questioning someone taking a three in the moment that they're taking it in, right? Like too early on the shot clock, or just like at random times where someone's open, or you can see like two passes away, someone would have an easy layup or a dunk, but they're taking the three. So yeah, I could see how it's a major issue. If everyone
Hmm.
shot like Steph Curry, then it probably wouldn't be as much of an issue. But it's just there's a lot of times when people are just pulling up, they're missing them. So not
That's
everyone's
right.
James or Curry, right? So
Right, and I do think a lot of it is volume of shots. Like people are just hucking just to get the
yeah,
volume up, and even if they're not, they may not be good percentage shooters, but if they're just hucking them all, then eventually they're going to get threes more than two, right? So
yeah.
I do, but I miss like watching basketball and seeing like whatever, and going into the paint to Patrick Ewing or Alonzo Mourning or Larry Johnson or one of these Anthony Mason, like one of these big dudes, and then just seeing how crafty they were and their soft touch and stuff, like Shaq, stuff like that, right? And there's not too many guys that do that so much anymore.
Yeah.
But one person who is doing well, and then this is going to just kind of transition right into the Raptors, is Grady Dick in terms of like the mid range, and he's definitely a player that's caught my eye. I think he's taken tremendous growth this year. So this is just more of a general question again about the league and also Raptors. Any players jump out at you? Any players catch your eye?
Well, yeah, definitely. Uh, Grady Dick. We can touch on it in our Raptors segment for sure. But I mean, I think it's more of like the struggles and the injuries that I've noticed as far as kind of like beginning of season. I can't really say that anyone has blown me away. I mean, there's a few kind of fringe players, and it's because we're involved in fantasy too, like
Yeah.
Scotty Jr. I picked up. His stats are phenomenal. I think at least kind of came out of nowhere as far as across the board strong in his statistical
Hmm.
category. Um, so yeah, but to your
That's
point,
a deep
like
cut. That's a deep cut, bro. Like
right,
Scottie Pippen
like
Jr. I would have never really
Scottie
thought of that
Pippen
guy.
Jr. No, but again, I picked him up week one of my fantasy. He had a few strong games to start the season, and I'm not dropping him anytime soon. I'll tell you that. But
Uh,
it's the points, rebounds, and assists as a guard, like just very consistent player. So
hmm.
um,
Well, it's
yeah,
interesting that like injuries allow for these opportunities for some of these people that maybe you wouldn't expect, right? And maybe Pippin's a benefactor of that. I remember last year watching the in-season tournament, there was a lot of people that were injured because the floor was too slippery. You remember people twisting their ankles quite a bit?
Yes.
So
Yes.
this is my segue into my next point about the in-season tournament, which has started. We're, I think, second game in around there.
Yeah.
So let's pull up a screen here because I did want to talk about the courts and get your thoughts on it. I don't know if you've had a chance to peruse them.
I
So
will. I mean, I will agree. I saw some of the Raptors home game and then the Raptors in Milwaukee for it, and it did seem still like there's still the slippery issues on the
yeah,
court.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That exactly my point too. Like in the Milwaukee game, I saw some players going down like slippery, and it does look a little slick. So, can you see that screen on your end
Yeah,
there, James? Yeah, yeah, you can see it.
yeah,
Awesome. So in front of you guys, everyone can see all 30 NBA Emirates NBA Cup courts for this year. Different design than last year. Last year there was a strip that kind of ran through the middle, lengthwise, or yeah, lengthwise. What do you think about these ones? First impressions of these things that jump off the bat, or how do you like
so
them so far?
obviously Raptors, with the call out to the 30th season, the
Sure.
purple, really like it. I also really like New Orleans there near the middle, um,
Okay.
with the logo and
Oh
then
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
paper logo behind. I got like that how that looks from up top as well.
The my concerns. So like I did kind of go through my top three, and you tell me what you think of these top three. So I have the Nets, the Spurs, and the Raptors as my top three. So
Okay,
I like the Brooklyn one. You can see the Brooklyn. I like that pattern on the floor. The Spurs
right.
one, I saw the game, and the floor looked beautiful just on screen. So I do think that the gray works a lot better. Like that blue is a lot, man. That blue's a lot, and
Yeah,
that Celtic screen was brutal when I saw that Celtic screen. I don't know if you saw that one. That was brutal. So definitely got to go with that gray. So the Brooklyn, the San An, and then my third, I would give it to the Raptors just for being unique in its presentation. The only color, only team with that purple, and I do think that they're making an effort to be unique all around this year with their uniforms and such too.
absolutely. Yeah, the San Antonio one was against the Lakers. I caught a few minutes of that game too, and it was funny at the start of the third quarter with the gray court and then the empty seats being gray as well. It was like
Ah.
a lot of gray on the screen, and then once the people returned to their seats, it went away. But yeah, it was just I noticed that right away. It's like, oh, okay, so when it's the same color as the seats, it has kind of that funny look to it on TV.
Yeah, so the Raptors did play on their purple the other day, which looked all right. I'm not sure why they didn't wear the purple jerseys. They had their
Yeah,
blacks on, so that was
there was
kind of
some discussion,
strange.
on social media about that as well. But maybe the next one, did they get another home in season tournament game? I'm
Uh-huh.
not sure how many they get.
I
Although
don't know. I would hope at least two, but maybe not.
right,
I really don't know. But okay, well, so that's kind of our thoughts there. If you guys have thoughts out there of which one kind of stands out or which one popped for you, let us know. The Houston
yeah,
one's
let
also
us
pretty
know.
nice. I'm just noticing that right now. But I do want to talk about the next thing that they introduced was the City Editions jerseys. So let me just pull that out real quick. 1 second. Those
Yes,
came
and
out the other
we
day.
while you're pulling them up, we got an answer, right?
There
Because
you go.
if you guys have seen, Dante and I did share a clip of us talking about the Raptors leaked City Edition jersey, and it had the Raptor, and
Hmm.
we were wondering why it was off to the side of a little bit. But so the answer is there. The answer is there, and that it's the number. But yeah, I know these are great. These are great
Yeah.
jerseys. So yeah, what are your thoughts?
Okay, well, I do think that the Raptors one right off the bat is the best one of the group. Again, because of like the creativity of it, like just the uniqueness of it.
Yeah,
I do like the Sixers one. I think that's clean. I like that how nice that white is. I like the kind of rainbow colors at the side. I don't mind that Sixers font. It's kind of traditional
sure.
for me, so I like that one too. And then the other one I like was the Knicks. Where's the Knicks? The Knicks. I don't mind that double line, that 3D sort of thing. It kind of looks good in person. So those were my top three. But my general consensus is that these are trash, man. These are kind of boring. Like that top row, all those are pretty boring to me.
Yeah,
I'm not a big fan
yeah.
of
Denver. That's
the
Denver, right? With the area
the
code.
Denver Nuggets 5280. Sorry, Jay. Just trying to catch up here. My things lagging. Yeah, sorry. Can you hear me still?
Yeah, I can hear you. You're good.
Well, I couldn't
Oh,
hear
can you hear
you.
me? Oh,
There we go. Okay, there we go. We're
oh
back at
no.
it.
Okay.
Uh, I'm back at it. I don't know if you're back at
So,
it.
so
Uh, uh,
yeah, I'm good. I can hear you. Can you
okay.
hear me?
Yeah, yeah. Now you're good. Now you're good. So yeah. So I was saying the Denver's the 5280. Don't like that at all. I'm okay with the rainbow, but I think that just that it's too many numbers. Like I don't get that as a logo. I'm not a
Yeah.
fan of the heat culture. I'm not a fan of that either. And I think the Bulls one is pretty bland. I think the red is iconic for the Bulls, just like the green is for the Celtics. So they just seem to
Yep.
disappear in those ones. Yeah. What are your thoughts?
Yeah. No, I agree. I think the Celtics, even with their court, like there's not a
Oh
lot
yeah.
of like wow factor, and it's, for the jersey, it's just a different color. Like, come on, like we
This
we
this
we could do better.
this Celtics one looks like a practice jersey almost. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
right. Like it's tough to you just think coming off the championship, like there's kind of a little bit more, I guess, creativity. But when you're such a
Yeah. Puts
storied, I mean, you look at the Lakers, like when you think about storied NBA franchises, yeah, they're pretty basic, and maybe they don't want to stray too far from what works for them.
sure fair, but like to your point about the Celtics winning the championship, this would be a good opportunity to get some gold in there.
Yeah,
Give
right.
something to show some regalness. But anyways, just continue with your thoughts.
Yeah, and then the Minnesota one I find interesting too, just with
Thank you.
the like so much white, but then so it'd be interesting to see them play against another opponent that also has like a darker top as well. I think that could lead to maybe some unforced
Hmm.
turnovers, people throwing it to the wrong team.
Hmm.
Utah's and Orlando's just look like throwbacks,
Oh yeah, yeah.
right? Like so I guess paying homage, and then correct me if I'm wrong, but Oklahoma City's kind of looks like an old Golden State kind of when who was like
Oh
when I just
yeah.
remember Jason Richardson
Well,
competition. It seemed to
well
have
look
those vibes.
look at the Golden State one in the top right hand
Oh,
corner. It's very similar, right?
basically the same. Okay, there you go. So I don't know how it gets all approved and everything, but if I was one of those teams, I would have been like, wait a second, it looks too much like this team.
Yeah, yeah. And some of these ones like the Clips, Indy, a little bit of the Hawks, like those feel very 90s ish to me. H Town. H Town. I don't like the Pistons cream, and I never liked Cleveland going by the land. So overall,
Yeah,
thumbs down for me. Thumbs down.
except for the Raptors.
Yeah, except for the Raptors. Still want to see that on the nice court. I'm curious because I can't see it from here. Like, if the Raptors jersey is another number, like, is the Raptor wearing 15 on his jersey? Because then you're gonna have the 15 on the Raptor, and then you're gonna have your own number on the back. You know what I mean? But
Right.
I'll see if I'll find an updated picture for the next time. But anyways, so
Sure.
yeah, those are our thoughts on the jerseys. Again, let us know what you think. Do you have a favorite of this bunch or one that you don't like? Very curious to know what people think out there. Awesome. So
Thank you.
finally, like as we transition away from league specific, let's focus a little bit more Raptor centric. Let's spend the next 5-6 minutes talking Raptor specific ball. I mentioned Grady Dick off the top. There was a couple of talking points that I wanted to get your thoughts on. So my first note there that I have in the agenda: Dick Rising, great mid-range
Yeah.
game. Still think that he's a bit of a defensive liability. I think he's crafty as hell, man. He's so crafty as a
Yeah.
scorer. Where are the 3 pointers? That's a little. I know they're gonna come, but I would have liked them, especially last game. I would have loved them because he had a couple shots to win it at the buzzer.
I know at the end. Oh man.
Yeah, but before I get your overall thoughts, I do want to also think about like what would be a good Raptors comparable. Like, who's another player that Grady Dick maybe reminds you of? So kind of think about that. But what are your thoughts on him?
Ooh, like a Raptors historic. That's
Yeah.
it's
So like
funny
I was
when you ask. Go
Go
ahead.
ahead.
You go.
Well, all right, fine. I was gonna say, like, I did think about this maybe like a week and a half ago, and I was like, he kind of reminds me of a less athletic, more fundamentally sound Terrence Ross ish type of player, like a shooter that probably, but like a better shooter. I don't know. I didn't love that comparison. Maybe an Anthony Parker. Maybe an Anthony Parker around there. Um, what do you think? Talk it out with me.
Yeah, yeah. It's funny that you asked about like a former Raptor. I do like the T Ross comparison a little bit more, but I was going as far as when we were talking about crafty scorer, who's hopefully Brady makes his living being that scorer. But I was going like maybe ceiling kind of a similar to like a Reggie Miller, just like
Okay.
not as so like quick, but not like quick enough to hang with like the guards. Grady's taller, he plays, forward, but even just kind of that crafty scoring to come up. And I think that, like you said, it speaks to the work he's put in the offseason. Clearly, you want to see that development from year one to year two. Again, with I'm sure we'll talk, with Scotty's injury. So just like not just Scotty, but yeah, we'll talk Raptors injuries. But yeah, so I do see the progression to start the season. He
Mm-hmm.
seems to want to win. He seems like he's
Yeah.
invested in. He gets you can see he gets visibly frustrated with himself, but that doesn't deter him from like playing, from like keep going,
Yes.
right? So yeah, I'm impressed with that initial like step that he's taken in year two for sure.
Yeah, he's shown a lot of maturity considering how seemingly immature he was at the draft day. Like he seemed like he's
Yeah,
kind of like the class clown, but he has shown a lot of maturity, and yeah, I do like to see that development. Just the fundamentals, like that shot mechanic is so clean that I think
yeah.
that it's only a matter of time till he does that. Interesting about the Reggie Miller comparison. I'm not sure if I like. Did Reggie have that layup package? Does he have that layup package?
He's
I don't
just like
remember Reggie doing layups. I just remember him doing
he was
jump shots.
lanky. Yeah, you're. I mean, he was like, yeah, and I probably need to think about a better comparison, but just because of like how tall Brady is. But yeah, I just thought crafty. Like
Yeah.
when you said crafty, I'm like okay, yeah. So
Okay, so let's think about that. Next few games, keep an eye. Maybe next time we touch base, we'll see if someone else comes to mind. So, moving on from Grady, I want to talk a little bit about the Rooks. I think our team has done a pretty good job discovering some talent where we didn't think it was a very strong draft class. I think guys are playing above their heads a little bit, like especially a guy like Shed is playing above his head. I love Shed. I think he's got great heart. I do not think it's sustainable. I think that his inability to shoot is going to catch up to him.
yeah,
IQ coming back is going to push him to the bench too. So like that's that. Although he's right now, like maybe people love him more than the other Rooks because of what he can bring. My guy is Mogbo, whatever, however you
yeah,
pronounce it.
yeah,
He's awesome. I think he's kind of given a raw deal, thrown in a tough situation, having to like learn in the fire against some quality players. So, but his instincts are there, right? Like he's got great instincts. So I have high hopes for him more than I do Jacoby Walter. And the last
yeah,
guy I want to touch on was Jamison Battle. You know, for a guy
yeah.
that has no business being on this team, he can shoot. He tries hard. You know, like he's really, really trying, and I think he's earning a spot. Like he's pretty solid in my opinion. If he's shooting this, he's better. He's kind of our best 3 point shooter right now. You know, like
Yeah.
in terms of being able to hit an open look. So those are my thoughts with the Rooks. What do you think about the Rooks?
Yeah. So for Battle, you know what it is for me? It's as much as it looks like he doesn't belong, it doesn't like he's smooth. He's
Yes.
smooth with his movements. And that's not to say that he's not putting in effort because obviously he is. But yeah, so it seems like he is under control, and he lets the game come to him, so to speak. And yeah, he's made some big shots. He's made some like
Yeah.
exciting plays that you don't
But
usually
like
see from.
his balance is like he's got a little clay to me. Like
Yeah,
very
sure.
little. But
That's
like in
that's
terms of his
good. Yeah,
balance, right?
I like that.
Anyway, what's your thought on the other kids?
Yeah. Well, Shed, same thing. Like I know that when he hasn't been starting, I think some people thought that he was going to start with Quigley out, but uh, yeah, the heart's definitely there. He's the guy that can provide that spark off the bench. But you're right, like for the longevity, especially with the Raptors having all the pieces that they have, he would need to knock down shots when called upon, and so that's going to be the
Yeah.
biggest move. And then did we logo, but the tough part for him is that he has to guard the other team's best player more often than not, just based on his
Yeah.
position, right? So that's what, like you
That's
said,
right.
kind of thrown into the fire, baptism by fire. But there's been a few plays where I've been like, oh, like he's got a lot of hops that
Yeah.
I wouldn't necessarily know about before. I do like again his. He seems like a great team guy. He
Yeah.
seems like supporting the other guys, and yeah, he makes some smart plays. And so I'm excited by his developments as well. I think that what our biggest hope is that all of these guys play the right amount of minutes, and to your point, they're not going to be overextended, and then to see some gaps as they look to develop. Because to be a rookie in the NBA and then to be like thrown into playing so many more
Mm-hmm.
minutes, I think can be a detriment when you're trying to like build up. But for what we've seen and these guys, I mean, I think it speaks to kind of how the Raptors have performed overall. And I'm not talking wins and losses, but I am talking about just like
Competing.
excitement of games competing. So, um, yeah. So I like what I see
Yeah.
from the Rosen and kind of the elevated stance that they've been thrust into based on some of the injuries we've had for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I think the jury's still out on Jacoby Walker. I mean, with a name like Jacoby, named after Jordan and Kobe, like there's pressure on this guy, and he hasn't really shown it for me yet.
Yeah,
The other guys seem to be able to do a little bit more intangibles, and he seems a little bit more one track as a shooter. But we'll
sure.
see. I mean, he's been injured for a while, so not exactly
Yeah.
fair. Speaking of injuries, man, that's really been kind of shooting us in the foot. I do think we're being cautious. Like you just mentioned, wins and losses don't matter this year.
Right.
So I don't think they care if we eat a few more losses. I think Kelly Olynyk and Bruce Brown could
Yeah.
play if they wanted to, and they're just kind of nursing. But I mean, the record is what it is, predominantly because of these injuries.
Yeah.
Has it soured your enjoyment of the product?
As a person, again, you hate to talk fantasy, but when I picked Scotty with my first pick late round one,
Oh man.
hoping, yeah, right. So that's soured because again, I think in the conversation we did have before the season started, that was one of our things was his next step being injury free, and now with the orbital kind of issue that has soured me because we don't want
Yeah.
the injury bug to be a recurring theme for him. But yeah, so I'd say that compounded with just him, RJ,
Quick.
and quickly haven't been able to play together this season, and there are core pieces, right? So I don't know, that's what I'm waiting for. That's what I'm hoping that they can string together consecutive games together to really start building on what kind of the preseason talk was. What are your thoughts?
Yeah. Well, yeah, injuries are killing me. I'm very curious. Like, I don't think Scotty's going to be an all-star this year. Like I don't think he's going to have the games
Right.
played.
Right.
But it's not just us, right? Like Orlando's missing Pablo. Like there's injuries throughout the league, right? Like
Yeah.
Shet going down for OKC recently too. So maybe it's just a thing of the league. But yeah, it sucks. This year I don't mind it because of what the Raptors are trying to do. But man, I was so excited to just see wins. It's been so long, and so it's been pretty disheartening so early in the season to be 2-11 or whatever it is. That sucks.
Right.
So I did want to talk a little bit, a couple more points here. A redemption tour. We were talking about players playing well, and this kind of ties into my next point about Coach Darko. We were just talking about Grady's development. We're talking about players taking the next steps. I have a theory that Coach Darko is a great player development coach, but I have questions about him as a team development coach because it does seem like every player is leveling up. Ochai's having a great season. Like all the rooks are playing out above their head. Dick's playing really, really well. Mitchell, whatever. Like everyone's playing well, but we're not winning. We're not executing down the stretch. His timeout after play timeouts are not very good. His late game execution is not very good. Sometimes his substitution pattern's a little suspect. He's owned up for mistakes, sometimes too. So I don't know. Again, this season, who cares? Because losses help us actually. But
Right.
that didn't give me like too much confidence in terms of like a tactician. And he's predominantly been an assistant, I think, so I can understand the player development being a stronger suit. Do you have any thoughts on Coach Darko?
Yeah, I mean, just to highlight on what you said, yeah, you just if you're going to be that 1A seat, that head coach, you need to make sure that those top assistants around you overcompensate for what you lack, right? Like they need to be the person that uh, makes up what you lack. Great example of Raptors history would be, um, when Dwayne Casey had Nurse. A lot of the knock on Casey was the creativity, the play drawing, and you would see, when you look back, that Nick Nurse did a lot of those tasks, and Casey kind of gave him those reins. And so I think if Darko has to if he has the right people around him, I mean, you see, it's funny the comments I'll make on coaches' dress, and now that they're all wearing the Nike half zips, when they're wearing a particular color, you see just how many coaches there are on the team. But yeah, maybe it's a case where maybe he doesn't have the right support pieces in place for those tools. Maybe it's more of a people that he knows or people that he trusts. But as a coaching staff overall, they need to develop it and work on things. But yeah, because one of the things I'll say that I was going to say for my overall thoughts is they've been in a lot of games. And I think that's one of the very things that's exciting for me. They're not right out of the gate getting blown out, and it stays a blowout. If they get off to a rough start, they seem to come back and then maybe lose it at the end, or they'll be up on a team and lose it at the end. And so I think that that's a part of the growth process. But there's got to be 2 or 3 games there where a head coach, through their, playing chess, should be able to squeak out a win or 2 out of those, right? And there's got to be a few games throughout the season that a head coach has the ability, whether it's through plays, whether it's through the right player personnel on the floor, based on what you have, that can swing it in your favor for a handful of games a year.
Yeah, just even a handful, just to sort of validate him as a coach. Like he's not been winning since he's gotten here. I mean, but players are getting better, and the product is more enjoyable. I do like how the Raptors are one of the highest assists, if not the highest assist team in the league. Like everyone's sharing. I remember when Darko was in Memphis a few years ago. Like those Memphis teams were crazy, man. Like it seemed like everyone was a threat, and I think that's the goal here, that everyone becomes a threat for us, and we're getting there. So it's all good. It's all good. Keep doing it, but I mean, we got Boston tonight. I really don't see us winning for a while. It's going to be a while. But hopefully by the time we have our next podcast, they'll be in double digits in wins. I don't know, man. I really don't think so, but who knows? Any other overall thoughts on the team, on the league in general?
Yeah, I mean, just overall, shout out to Hurdle for his 20 and 20. Only I think.
Hey, talk about another player playing above his head, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So they put the stat up last night. He's only the 3rd player in Raptors history, because Chris Bosh did it twice, and then Popeye Jones did it back in the Raptors' inaugural season.
Shit.
But yeah, he's only the 3rd Raptor to have a 20-point, 20-rebound game, and so so shout outs to him just as a side note there. But yeah, overall thoughts. I think that I'm excited about. I think that there's been a lot of injuries to a lot of star players, but I am excited so far about what the league's been at to this point, and I think that there's a lot of great storylines. But for us as Raptor fans, I'm excited to see. The Vince Carter night was amazing, and we can save for another day. But just as we continue with the 30th anniversary, it's going to be a fun season. To your point, no matter what the wins and losses have to say, I think that there's a lot of positives to take out of it.
As long as we all have fun, right? That's all that's important at this point. Yeah.
All right, man.
Yeah, let's get some new jerseys, man. I'm tired of those chevrons.
Yeah, chevrons got to go.
I feel you. All right, my friend. Well, that's good. That's a great conversation there. Nice takes on that. I really hope that the next time we talk, we're talking wins. But
Yeah,
there'll be some more things. Certainly, I mean, probably by the next time we can maybe get some early All Star talk in as well too. So things to look forward to.
perfect. Yeah. So, Dante, I really appreciate you being on. Let's continue to do this for anyone that's, that we're blessed enough to have listened to any part of this that you did. Please feel free, drop some comments, drop some likes, let us know what you think. I'd love to hear from you. It's a pleasure, Dante. I hope you have a great night ahead. And yeah, let's do this real soon.
Absolutely, man. I love this. Until next time, my friend.
Until next
Peace.
time, peace, everybody.
Peace, y'all.
Hey, everyone. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the podcast. Make sure to check out JFKsWorld.com for all past episodes and additional content. It's been a pleasure sharing a part of my world with you, and thank you for letting me a part of yours.